I'm Jan Brasini. I'm the design director on Lord of the Rings, Heroes of Middle-earth.
So Jay, talk about what type of game, for people who are unfamiliar with this game, what type of game Heroes of Middle-earth is.
Heroes of Middle-earth is a character RPG game, or a battler that we generally have and what we call them. The way the game works is you will go through the game, you'll play, you will collect multiple characters from within the Lord of the Rings universe. You will then be able to use these characters inside of battles. You will gather equipment, you will level them up, you'll make them stronger. And the whole shtick around the game is that you'll be collecting and combining different characters from across the Lord of the Rings universe in order to make sure that you can build fun and exciting teams to tackle different battles, fight through the stories, come across and just progress to what you have. Then in the end, play against other players and see who's the best.
No, and like the cool thing about your game that I saw in the presentation was the what if scenarios, right? We've seen that in comics before, like what if Iron Man didn't become Iron Man? What if Batman never became Batman? This is a similar lieu of that, where like what if certain things happened in the Lord of the Rings timeline and you have to prevent that from happening to make sure that the Tolkien timeline stays intact, correct?
Exactly. There is, in our storyline, we have you as the player find yourself a ring of power, and this ring of power is going to give you the ability to have visions throughout the timelines and storylines of Middle-earth. At the very start, you get a vision of the battle on Weathertop, where there's a shadowy figure who's attempting to corrupt the storyline by taking control of some of the Nazgul and some of the fighting there in order to make it so that Strider and Frodo, they lose the battle up there. And what would cause from there is then everything would unravel beyond. However, because you are there with this ring of power, you have the ability to see the battle, to understand what's going on, have better understandings of the combat and tactics that are going. And through your use as a player with this ring, you would be able to win those battles and make sure that the storyline stays with the major beats of what needs to happen. So yeah.
Now, as far as it, like, you know, this is a character collector kind of RPG thing. Are you collecting just heroes, or able to collect villains too? Will we be able to play as the Goblin King or like Shelob's offspring?
Yes, absolutely. We'll be collecting heroes and villains from throughout the Lord of the Rings universe. You'll have even our launch characters. There is our Road to Rivendell group, which includes Strider and the Hobbits, but we also have the Isengard Uruk-hai. We have Ugluk, we have Mahur, who are both Uruk-hai in the battle there. We also have additional characters that are there, different orcs that are supporting pieces that follow around and fight with them. Later on, we do have, I'm trying to think of the other ones that are in existence you can grab currently. There's the Goblin King, the goblins that go along with them. And we do have some pretty exciting other monsters and stuff coming on in the future that we're hoping to be able to bring in. There is a couple trolls even you can collect right from the start that are pretty fun and exciting.
Yeah, you correct me if I'm wrong, but just have the rights to, like, you know, the visual aspect representation of them in the live action movies.
We can talk about a group of people or a storyline that's happening, and then we can start seeing who the other characters that were in the space around that within the literature. We then take that literature, we do a bunch of research around what actually happened, who they are, how did they look from that text, and then we build a frame and a picture around what that is, and then we write a storyline that is, we start with what's the normal story of what's happened in that area. We then trying to explore what would happen if our shadowy figure comes in and tries to corrupt that. How would he twist it in a way to make it so that it's not going to come out the way it's supposed to be? And then find a way for the player to come in and be able to use their abilities, their ring, their characters and heroes they've accumulated in order to solve those crises one at a time.
So how do you guys go about the design of the game loop? And like, I know some games, I'm not saying your game does, but some games tend to throttle the player, like put paywalls in the way or timers in the way to like kind of halt progress or encourage people to spend money on microtransactions. Like, how is your game handling that front as far as player progression goes?
Our progression system and our monetization is generally what follows within the genre of what we're looking for. What you're playing against here. There's energy for campaigns that you will have to, that comes back over time. We give you rewarded energy based on daily objectives and doing the things you need to have for those. You gather gear by defeating battles and moving forward in those pieces. We generally want to we strike a balance to make sure there is enough content for players to play on a daily basis and be able to progress and feel like they're always making progress, but never too much so that you feel like you're kind of a slave to the game, that you feel the need that you can put it down, walk away from it a bit if you need to, or you can continue to pay and use some of your gems and whatnot in order to keep the progression going.
So in terms of like the world map, you travel, like, is there an ending to this game?
All of our content is based off of, we have campaigns, which are stories. We have a light side campaign, we have a shadow side campaign. And we also have a guild campaign, which is a mix of both light side and shadow side characters working together in order for you to play through that content. We have a ton of content in the game, more than enough to keep you busy for quite a while. And we are always developing new content that will also be coming out along the way. We also have, I believe, 46 characters at launch that are in-game that you will go out and you'll need to collect shards of those characters through battles, through things you're doing. And as you get them, you could then unlock those characters and use those in additional battles as you go through in different places for what's there. As we move into the future, we're already working on new characters that will be coming out, and we will be having a constant chain of new characters that are fun and exciting people who do come out, your favorite heroes from the Lord of the Rings universe coming into the game.
Now you have all the appendices and the trilogies and the books through the Middle-earth Enterprises, but that you don't have the likeness rights for like the actors that portrayed them in the live action movies, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so like, do you plan on doing something like that down the line if the game is successful? Maybe like a DLC add-on, or maybe Weta licensed characters in the character collector? So
we worked very hard to establish an art style that we feel is absolutely gorgeous and makes sense for the story that we're telling, and that is generally the art style that we'll be moving forward with in the future.
I tend to use these interviews as like a platform to connect you to the average gamer in person. So what do you have to say out there to the people who are looking at this game being like, oh, it's just a cash grab. It's just a cash grab of Lord of the Rings stuff. Like, what would you say to that person with that perspective on this mobile game?
I like to think of it this way. When I was a kid, I don't know how old you are and whatnot with
37.
Long ago. There you go. So when I was a kid back in the 80s, I had all these action figures that I would play with, right? I had my G.I. Joes, my Transformers, and had Mask, if you remember those guys.
Oh God, Mask.
Yeah.
Takes me back.
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry.
So we'd take these toys that we had and we'd go out in the backyard and we'd play with our different toys in the sandbox in the backyard and whatnot. I had a Sky Striker. I tried to make it fly. It wouldn't. But anyways, we'd go and we'd make up our own little adventures and play with these guys and have all the different stuff we'd have going on. What we're trying to do inside of a game like Lord of the Rings, Heroes of Middle-earth, what we're trying to do is recreate that love and excitement of playing with your action figures as a kid out back with all your friends doing the different things, right? And that's really the joy of what it is. And you get to the point where, I'm not sure if you've had those arguments with your friends too, where it's like, who would win in the fight? Would it be Darth Vader versus Aragorn, right? Well, right. In this kind of a game, while we're not going to be breaking genres or anything, it allows you to have this piece of like, what would a fight between Elrond and, Strider actually be in the world of the, in the universe of the Lord of the Rings? So it allows us to have that piece. You can have fun and exciting playing through these bits.
Now, what's separate from a design standpoint? How do you separate yourself from other games out there that are similar in genre? Like, what was the one thing that you wanted to do differently than anything else right now that's happening?
Sure. So with the main piece we're aiming for right here is there has not been a character battler RPG that we have inside of the Lord of the Rings universe. And we find that there's a lot of characters and beloved people inside of there that we wanted to make sure we explore, bring them to life, and have them in the spaces where we are. There's a lot of stuff for the future, what we're trying to do that is very innovative, but I can't really get into the topics of those bits right now.
You guys have a vision that you want to eventually get to that changes you from the other genres out there.
Absolutely. There's definitely going to be new features and new twists on the existing things you see in many of the genres that we're going to be looking to explore from the years to come. The main thing that we are focusing on right now is to make sure you have the ability to play inside of the Lord of the Rings universe in fun and exciting ways that you just can't get that experience elsewhere.
How was it for your team, like putting characters and models into a game that maybe have never been represented before in the digital space, in a video game or any other medium for that matter, in the Lord of the Rings universe? It's
really fun and exciting because one thing you'll note when you start doing a game like this is your favorite characters, so you start with your favorite characters of the story arc, change over time. Like everyone starts off, Gandalf is, obviously like probably one of the number one characters that everyone loves. But when you start putting together the personalities of what these characters are, how they actually will fight together, how they battle and what they do, you start getting to do a lot of research and a lot of depth and finding out what exactly is it that makes that character come to life within the group of how this is going to work. The best example I have is when we were putting together our Road to Rivendell squad of Strider and the different hobbits and how they were going to play and fight together. we really got this wonderful notion of Strider, who is this veteran, this person, almost the adult in the room, trying to protect all these hobbits who are inexperienced, more like children, and trying to protect them as they're going through and fighting these battles. And what we wanted to do is make sure we kept that light and that tenor from the narrative in order to make sure that we bring that gameplay and that experience across to players as they choose to invest in that squad and what they're trying to do. One of the other things we get out of this is by emphasizing on the personality of the characters from the narratives, we can then change up the gameplay experiences pretty drastically from one faction to the next. So you'll see that the Road to Rivendell squad plays very differently than the Rohan squad, which plays differently than Isengard or Mordor, or the Goblins, or so on and so forth.
Will there be music, like singing in your game and talking animals?
There is definitely music through the game. It is absolutely wonderful music. It fits the tone, and it really brings everything to life. I don't think we have singing animals or talking animals in this space. So, yeah.
Maybe in the future, maybe DLC.
You never know. You never know what's going to come. The most exciting thing, I think, is going to be, for me as a developer, the best thing is we put together this idea of these are the characters we love, these are the squads and how we expect them to fight. This is how the gameplay is supposed to be. But the most beautiful thing is once we've created that and given it to players, it's theirs now. They take the life of it and they make it go from that point. So we get to see, how do players mix and match characters in order to fight with? What is the most popular characters they're coming across? What's strong, what's weak, how do things go? And then we get to look at that and analyze and figure out, well, what's missing? What's the next experience that players are looking for? And what can we give them so that they stay excited and want to keep coming back for more?
Now, we've seen the mobile gaming space develop exponentially since the launch of the iPhone with games like Genshin Impact and Hearthstone, and now Marvel Snap, and now Heroes of Middle-earth. But like, as a developer working in the mobile space, do you still feel there's a stigma on mobile games that are free to play in 2023?
I like the free-to-play market because it gives us the best opportunity to reach the most players possible without having to have an initial pay in order to play the game to start out with. It allows us to reach people who would be willing to just give it a shot, see how it is. And if we bring you in and you can keep playing, you can always get something more, and you just, enjoy the time you're spending in that. And there's a big piece from Capital Games that we like believing in is that we want to make sure that all of the content will become available to all players at some point in time as you go through. We don't paywall things, in perpetuity. We want to make sure that everyone can come in, play the game, enjoy it at your own pace, and go through it and just have a great experience.